Hello everyone. Just over a year ago I went down to TDI Tuning, a local company, to review their BMW M4 which had been modified with their own tuning box. After that review they offered me the use of a tuning box free of charge on any of the vehicles that I owned. As it happened, I didn't actually have a vehicle which suited one of their products, but I knew that a good friend of mine was about to trade in his Nissan R35 GTR for an Audi S1, and high on his list of things to do was to get it tuned. So I asked for them to give my tuning box to him to test out for a little bit. They said, yes, sure, of course, just make a video on it. Now, I planned to do that, but I said to them, I'd like to do something a little bit different because I've seen a lot of people do reviews of these tuning boxes, but they do a sort of one day, first impression kind of video, and then that's it. But I see a lot of people in the comments asking how this sort of box performs after a year, after thousands of miles, so on and so forth. So I said, okay, let's do the installation, let's put the box in the car, and we'll do a few videos. First off, we'll do the first impressions video, then we'll do one a few months down the line, and then maybe in about a year's time, we'll do a sort of 12-month ownership update. Now I filmed the installation of the tuning box, which all went nicely and smoothly, and I drove the car myself when it first went in, but bad weather at the time meant we didn't film then, and so what we did was we reconvened a few months later to film with the car and see how he was getting on, with a view to then doing a final piece 12 months after installation to report back on what the experience had been like. Unfortunately, due to recent events, we were unable to film our big 1 year on update and finale piece with that car. Happily, there hasn't actually been any change since we've filmed the sort of 3-4 month update anyway. So what I've got for you to all enjoy today is my review of the Audi S1 equipped with a TDI tuning box. I just ask for your understanding because all of the footage comes from different points in time, so things don't match as well as they normally might, and we were planning on doing a much better job of this, but needs must. So please enjoy, and a big thank you to TDI for providing the tuning box, Stuart for providing his car and his time. Don't hesitate to give TDI a shout to see if they can help you, because I know at the moment they are doing some really good deals on their products which can be fitted at home. See you soon. Bye-bye. Hello everybody, welcome back to my friend Stuart's Audi S1. Personally, although I'm not the biggest fan of tuning boxes, I don't now think that they are the devil that I once did. I completely understand the need for the product, and I think it is important that you buy one from a reputable company that does do their own development work, as TDI do. Is it a real replacement for a proper, serious, dedicated custom map? No. I don't think it is, and I think the people at TDI would be the first to tell you that as well. Yes, it will achieve much of the sort of same, however, it simply isn't an equivalent product, but of course it has just as many advantages as it does drawbacks. At the very minimum, you can take the box off this car and move it to your new one when you buy it. You can, of course, completely remove it, and there is pretty much no evidence that it was ever there. And of course it is very easy to adjust. Not all tunes on cars are easily adjustable, but the tuning box is. I'm currently driving this car in auto mode with the tuning box turned off. Now I should also take a moment to make amends for an error that I made in my S1 video. I said that the car did not have adaptive dampers. I was wrong. It does. Now, the reason I said that it didn't have them is because we were told by the salesman at Audi that it did not. So again, sorry about that. I do try and make amends for these errors where I can, but unfortunately YouTube doesn't actually allow me to re-upload a corrected video in place of the original one. I would have to delete it and start again, and so yeah, sorry basically. I'm still not convinced that the driving modes are particularly useful, and I think that the lack of an individual setting is rather annoying, and when there's so little you can actually change, it just seems a bit mad. Now in the interim, I've actually driven the original A1 Quattro, which is kind of a prototype for this car. Has a different engine, another mistake that I made in that video, sorry. but it's an interesting thing. They are very, very similar. There's far more similarities than there are differences, I can assure you, despite the fact that the Quattro is a sort of bonkers concept car looking type of thing. Now, the main thing about the tuning box. It's been in this car, which has done, well, the best part of 9,000 miles. It's been used pretty intensively. I know Stuart enjoys driving it. He does a lot of miles in mixed conditions, and the car hasn't really had any hiccups at all. On the first journey back, the car had a couple of, shall we say, just moments, just a fraction where it went, but those seem to have kind of gone away. Now, Stuart's main observation of the box is that despite the fact you have multiple settings, you have anything from off to 7, he pretty much just drives it in 7. And I think most people would kind of be a bit like that. You would just either have it full on or full off. I know it's wonderful, the idea that you can just sort of modulate it and all that stuff, but you're not talking about an enormous power difference at all in the car. So yeah, in something else, maybe in another vehicle, something like perhaps say the M4, where you are talking about a big power gain, maybe it's more worthwhile. But in this, of course, with the all-wheel drive as well, it's just not as necessary. But to have the feature is very nice, and to have this, the Bluetooth equipped module, meaning you can turn it on and off from your phone, is great. Now, I've been driving the car gently, deliberately, because one of the things with these boxes is that when you switch it off, it does take a little while for the car just to return to normal. One of the things that they do is they don't want it that when you just turn it off, the parameters just to go like that and just kind of disables itself straight away, because the car wouldn't be very happy with that. The cars had no warning lights, the cars had no error messages, nothing like that has happened to the vehicle. Fuel economy is also very good. We can't say with any sort of scientific accuracy whether it has improved or got any worse, but it's still very, very good. The car recording nearly 40 to the gallon on the way up here. And having driven quite a few vehicles equipped with this engine, that is actually genuinely pretty good. Granted, this is small, but it's not a super light car. A side observation getting in it out of my Honda S2000, which is the last thing that I filmed with today, is rather interesting, because the clutch, just lifting it up, because this car's got so much torque, even a tick over compared with the Honda, feels like it wants to just leap away, and the steering feels like somebody snapped the column. It's just totally and utterly disconnected. So there's that. One thing worth noting with this car, I certainly will not be doing any full-bore standing launches, because this car's Achilles heel is a chocolate clutch. Well, let's get it into second and let's boot it. Okay, so boost comes in about 3, levels off about 5, and by 6 it starts going. It's very progressive and nice, and it whips up to decent speeds very quickly. It is geared very short, and the car is fun to chug around the bends. It's linear, it's progressive. It comes in at 3 and it kind of holds to about 6 and then it's done. It's a shame that it just doesn't rev longer, basically. But yeah, it's just, it moves. You look down and this is one of those cars where you aren't actually going as fast as you think that you are. So, I'm going to get my Shapely Enabler assistant, Stuart, to turn the box onto a full attack. I'm going to turn around and see what a difference that makes. He can do this all while I'm driving. There is no sudden change, there's no massive difference. It's not going like nothing's happening. As far as I'm concerned, just driving along at sort of normal throttle, the car feels totally normal, nothing different. But it is now, it's making a reasonable amount more power. If you want to see particular power claims, dynagraphs, all that sort of stuff, please check out TDI's website, where you can see all of that juicy stuff. It's going to, of course, vary depending on your car and all that jazz. On these, they deliberately peg the power back on account of that clutch. But if you went to them and said, look, I've changed the clutch and I want the full map, same as you get with, say, an S3, they will happily do that for you. All right, here we go, second gear. Oh, it does pull harder. It's odd. It doesn't feel like a night and day difference, but I'm also having to change gear a lot quicker than I was. Yeah, so it's a similar sensation to the M4 that I drove that they have. You get that initial boost here and then a little bit more on top. So it's almost like a two-step kind of thing. You get the boost that you originally did and then a little more. There you go. Oh, she really rips now. So we probably added another 10-15 mile an hour to the equation. It does work, and it does just liven up the car a little bit. But it's not turned it into some sort of silly animal. It's not, been a transformative thing, but it's certainly given the car, I think, the punch you would hope that it would. Very smooth, very nice, very progressive, very OEM, to be honest. It's a good product. It works. It's interesting, I find, how you get that kind of second stage in it, and I can only think that is simply a product of the way that they're doing things. The boxes in these are relatively clever. They are fairly smart. They're very conscious of not giving the car silly inputs, not silly values, because all this is doing, in case you're unaware, is basically intercepting signals between different parts of the car and essentially giving it misinformation, thereby making the car give it more boost, more fuel, all that kind of stuff. But you have to be very, very careful, because the car will know if it's being given a signal that's clearly wrong. And what it might do is mistake a signal being given to it by the box as a failed sensor, something like that. And so the people at TDI are very, very cautious of making sure that the engine is never fed anything sort of untowards. So I'm very happy to report that 3 months on and 6,000 miles with the tuning box, Stuart is still very happy with the product, and that's great. And here's the thing, look, totally honest, I haven't had anything out of TDI for this. I know people will always think like, oh, you're promoting something, or you're being paid, whatever. That's fine. If you want to believe that, that's absolutely fine. Like I said at the start, I am not going to make a claim that this is a direct replacement for a dedicated, proper on-dyno tuning session with your car, because it simply isn't. But if you're looking for an easy, simple, plug-and-play product that can then be removed at the end of your term with the car, it is a very, very good idea. And if you don't believe me, but you're kind of curious, call them, speak to them. They have a service that if you phone them, go down there, they will fit a box to your car. You can try it out, and if you like it, you keep it. If you don't, then take it off. And honestly, you can't really say fairer than that. It's a UK-made product. I've been there. I've seen them wiring these things up. It really does happen in this country. This is not some random thing they've bought off Wish and they're reboxing and reselling, and that's kind of the most important thing to me, and that is the element that I was most skeptical about. But that, I'm happy to say, is not at all the case. So if you've got anything with a turbo on it, you could do a lot worse than speaking to them and getting one of these fitted. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Stuart for bringing his car up, and thanks very much to TDI for lending us the box to test out. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye bye.